Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about how you can complete better online searches for your class research. So before you do any type of search, you want to think about the question that you are researching and what exactly it is you want to find. And I want to encourage you to dig into research articles. I have another video on science versus pseudoscience and the types of resources that are the best when you are researching information online. And also don't be scared if your question or your research doesn't show up in your first Google search. There's a lot of different ways to manipulate your search terms, and we're going to talk about those in this video. And I want to encourage you to not tell your teachers, I can't find anything, or I've searched and nothing comes up, because that's really an unproductive way to ask for help. And so instead, you could say something like, is this source helpful? What should I control F on this page? And if you don't know what control F is, we'll talk about it in the next couple slides. Or what other words or phrases could I use to search for whatever you're looking for? So try to veer more to the phrases I have in green when you're asking for help, and that'll show your teacher that you are indeed trying your best to do the best Google search that you can, or best online search that you can. So some quick basic tips for online searches. First of all, avoid unnecessary words. Though Google, search engines like Google, can process questions and sometimes come up with great answers to those questions, you're going to find better information if you eliminate unnecessary words. So you do not have to type out an entire question within a Google search. Instead, you can shorten the terms and only pull those necessary keywords and put them in your search bar. If you can't find what you're looking for, try synonyms or close words. For example, if you're interested in finding out how genes or your DNA affect your behavior, you might want to look for DNA behavior human, or then switch to gene behavior human, or maybe you can even throw in a how there, but you don't have to type out an entire question. And because those things are similar, your DNA is what your genes are made of, then you can kind of use them interchangeably when you're doing a search, because maybe there could be a really good article out there that just has that different term in the title. You can use quotes when necessary. Quotes will basically help you look for an exact search term. So if you really wanted to find out maybe fraternal twins and how they are similar when they're growing up, you could put in quotes, fraternal twin similarities, end quotes. And that could be something very specific that you wanted to search for and you didn't want Google to jumble up. But only use them when necessary, because you can find some other things sometimes if the wording is rearranged. Again, keep your search terms short. Try not to search for long phrases or type a long question into Google. And make sure you go beyond the box. Google is very helpful, and it'll sometimes do a pull-out box with the best information it finds on its sites, and often that's from Wikipedia, and students like to take the definition or the answer from that box as their first choice. But I encourage you to look at the other search results that you get when you're doing an online search, and don't just read what's in the box, because remember, that's just information from one source and it may not be the best source for your class. Now, if you don't know about Control F, it's a very powerful tool. Make sure you look on your computer right now if you have it in front of you. You either have a PC or a Mac or something similar, and you should have a command or control button. The command has that little symbol right here. Control just says control. It's abbreviated sometimes like that. If you press Control and then the letter F on your keyboard when you're on a website, it'll pop up with a little search box, and then within the page, you can search for that term you're looking for on the page. Remember to use 1 or 2 words at a time, no more than that. And then you can scroll through the document or the page very quickly and find where the term you searched for is highlighted in that document. So I encourage you to try that if you haven't already. All right, let's move on to some more advanced tips. So you can also use an advanced search on Google or other search engines. This is very helpful, so I encourage you to pull that up and try it. I encourage your search to avoid certain words or find certain terms or only search certain sites. There's also shortcuts that I mentioned in my science versus pseudoscience video about how to type in the search bar, how to only search for a site that's on an EDU website or a Gov website, so you can go back and watch that video if you need to. Image search is also very helpful. If you're looking for a specific image of a process, you can go directly to image search instead of on the first page of Google. You can also reverse image search. Google Scholar is an excellent tool when you're looking at research articles, so you just Google Google Scholar and you should be able to navigate there pretty quickly. And this is a database that will specifically bring up research articles that have been published, and you can narrow it by year, and it's really helpful when you're looking for scientific peer-reviewed journal articles. Now, there are other databases out there that are not just Google, so try a few other databases if you're really getting stuck. Libraries often have really great resources. If you're a member of a library, you can search within libraries, and sometimes they have online resources, not just books at the library. And remember, when you're looking for definitions especially, this is where you need to be very careful on the internet, and this is why I encourage a lot of students to pull information from my videos and not just a random Google search. There is a different definition for a word sometimes if you look within a specialty or within just the regular dictionary definition. A great example for this is organic. So if you go to the grocery store, a lot of foods will be labeled organic because it means they're grown without pesticides or something like that, and they have a certain quality. In biology, we refer to as organic as anything that is a carbon compound, and we'll talk about that when we talk about organic compounds. But if you just look up the definition for organic and you find the non-biology definition, sometimes that can't be helpful. Another problem with biology words is oftentimes you'll look up a definition for something and you'll get this really complicated definition because the search that you found will find a site that's maybe a medical reference or something for a master's or PhD student, and so it's really not at the level of understanding that we want for our class. So it's really important to use the resources your teacher provides first before you just do a random online search, because when that word is taken out of context, it can mean something totally different or something incomprehensible from what we want our class to be able to understand. So keep that in mind. And lastly, I know we're in a digital age, but don't be afraid of using a textbook if your teacher has those laying around in your classroom. Textbooks can be really helpful for a lot of reasons. One, sometimes it does have that information that's pared down in a way that's useful for that specific class and not just a general broad definition of something. And two, the information is categorized often in chapters that make it helpful to find other useful information as well. So if you're having trouble on Google, it might not be a bad idea to go up to the shelf where your teacher has some old textbooks and maybe take a peek in one of them. And if you didn't know how to use an index, the index in the back of the textbook is a really useful tool. It's kind of like the Control F of a physical world, and you'll flip to the back of the textbook and there's all these words in alphabetical order, and it'll tell you where in the textbook those words appear in the entire book based on the page number. So I encourage you to use that if you have the time. Say they're looking for a protein that'll help algae create biofuels. So you'll find something maybe very technical at first, and sometimes the article may not look very helpful at all. But when you're looking at a scientific paper, the abstract is the most important thing. So read the abstract closely, and the abstract is this first section here before the article actually begins that kind of summarizes the research in a couple paragraphs. And we actually have in here something familiar to what the research is, something sounds a little bit familiar to what the student is researching, so that's great. So then we can Control F or Command F, looking for terms like protein, ASE, because that was what enzymes are going to end in, or transform, or biofuel. And guess what? We find things that are going to be able to help us using that Control F tool. So we find something that's helpful, we can put it in our document. Please make sure you do scroll down beyond those first two Google search results. Sometimes the first one is not going to be super helpful. So if you keep going a little bit in your or in your search results, you may be able to find something that could help you. And so here we go. We have a great resource. The one thing I will warn you about is when you're looking at scientific research literature, sometimes you cannot access the entire article because you have to pay for it. So that's unfortunate, but it doesn't mean that all hope is lost if you can't access the entire article. Sometimes all the information you need can be found in the abstract and you can still cite it as a source even if you can't access the entire article. So look for other sources is one option, but two, you can read the abstract carefully and then sometimes you can even find what you're looking for. And so in this case, the student would be able to find the gene that they need for the project, and they can complete the last search. Don't be afraid to look for books, look at books on Google as well. Sometimes it'll pull in great information from just a preview of a book, and you can see the words are highlighted here, which is great. And then you can find the information that you need. Now, it looks like the student is done. They finished the part that they needed to finish, but what did they forget? They did not cite your sources. So please make sure whenever you're doing any type of research, you make sure you follow your teacher's requirements for citing sources, whether that's just a link to the URL of the page or if it's a full MLA or APA citation. All right, so remember, these are our forbidden phrases. You can't say anymore, I can't find anything, or I've searched and nothing comes up, or there's nothing out there on my topic, or I can't understand this. Instead, ask these questions. Is this source helpful? What should I Control F? What other words or phrases could I use to search for these terms? And hopefully this will help you do better online searches. Thanks.